Hi guys, today I'm going to be doing a video focusing on contouring for the winter. The primer that I'm using is by Mercier. I did receive it in a Sephora purchase as a sample, and I'm just rubbing it into my T-zone, as that is where I tend to be most oiliest. And now I am using the Younique Eye primer. Just smaller than a pea size amount for both eyes will be enough. I'm going to be using Addiction Palette 1, and the first shade I'm going to be going in with is Elated. And I'm going to be using a Sigma E40 brush. And I'm going to be putting this shade into my crease and all over my lid, just as a base for the other colors that I used today to be blended in more easily. And the next shade that I'm going to be using is the shade Chipper. I'm going to be using a Makeup Geek soft dome brush. Also just putting this color only in my crease and keeping it off of my lid. And I did adjust the angle of my camera so I'm more in front of it and not to the side. And it's all about blending and not making harsh lines so you have a soft, smoky look. Next, I'm going to be using Addiction Palette 3, and I'm going to be going in with the shade Irate and using a Makeup Geek small crease brush, focusing only in the crease and not blending up at all, just blending straight into the crease to create depth and kind of contour for your eye. And remember, you can never blend too much, and it's always good to go in with less product and add more. It's much harder to remove extra product if you go in with too much, so it's always good to just tap a little bit on the very end of your brush, especially when you're working in your crease. You don't want a lot of extra product all over the tip of your brush. And when you're working in the crease, you want to hold your brush towards the base. You go in with lighter strokes. I'm going in with Addiction Palette 1 and the shade Zealous. It's a chocolate shade with some gold shimmer through it. It doesn't have fallout. There's not glitter in it. Just a few small, very, very tiny flecks of gold. I'm using a Sigma E55 brush to pat this onto the lid, and you don't want to rub it across your lid. You want to make tiny patting motions all over your lid and just pack the color on. And I'm going back in with Addiction Palette 3 with the Sigma small crease brush with the shade Irate, just to go back over that black and create more depth. And remember, just focusing only in the crease and not blending up at all. Now I'm going to be doing a winged eyeliner with my favorite eyeliner ever, the NYC Liquid liner in black. I've been using this for probably about 4 years now, and I've never tried another. I probably will always use this one as long as I can find it. You can go out from my outer V and go at an angle up, trying to keep them both the same, and then from that top peak at your crease, I go at an angle and drag the line back down not all the way into the inner corner of your eye, but almost. And then I just fill that space in with the liner. Also, it's always with liquid liner, you always want to go in with less and not more. It's very easy to mess up and takes a lot of practice. And then from your highest point of your wing, you want to make sure you have a very little product on your brush and drag that up just slightly, just to create a little bit of extra wing, just a little bit of extra drama. You don't have to do this. I just prefer that little bit of extra. And then if you need to even up some lines, you can go back with pretty much a bare brush and clean that up. And there I used the spoolie of a brow Whiz to just clean up a little bit of the line where I went out. You do be sure and wait until it's dry before you do that. And now I'm using the Younique eyeliner in the shade Perfect just to line my waterline. Something I've always done. Now I'm using the Anastasia Brow Whiz in the shade Taupe. Since I went to blonde hair, I haven't gotten the blonde or light brow Whiz from Younique. So I just went back to one I had before and started using it. And just follow your natural line, and from your outermost peak right above your cheekbone, I always drag that part out to create an arch. And you don't want to overdraw your brows, so start closest to your brow and work out and up. That way you know you're not going to have too much to clean up if you need to. And you want to use soft strokes here. You don't want to go in too harshly and make them too dark. Next I'm going to be using the Anastasia Dip Brow in the shade Blonde with a Anastasia Brow brush number 7. It's an angled duo brush. The bristles are fairly stiff and there's not a lot of play with them. And I'm just filling in and just making them a little bit lighter than what the pencil actually is. The pencil's a little bit darker than the dip brow. And this is a gel type product, and I am going to be using the Anastasia Beverly Hills brow powder in the shade Blonde, and I'm going to be using an Eco Tools angled liner brush just to set that, just as you would your liquid foundation with a powder. And I am using the lightest side of this. There's a lighter and a darker side, and I believe I forgot to show you the dip brow and the powder in this. And I'm going to be using the Anastasia Beverly Hills Duo highlighting pen, and I'm using the shade Matte Shell. And you can use this as an eraser. I use it to highlight and accentuate your brows. And I did go a little bit high on the one side, as you can see. And it's just a good way to clean up your brows if you make a mistake. I am using an Eco Tools smudge brush. You don't want to do this too harshly because you still want to be able to see the color. I usually drag it down just a tad towards my eyeshadow, and there's the cleanup. And I go back in with the Brow Whiz just to define that line again, because I did get a bit too close with the brush, which it's not a big deal and it's a quick fix. And I am going to set my brows with the Anastasia Beverly Hills Clear Brow Gel. Brow gel is basically hairspray for your brows, because when you put this on them, they're not going to move very much. well, they're not going to move at all until you take them off in the evenings. And I am going to be using a Sephora brand mascara here. It's called the Mascara Volume. And I am going to be using false lashes later, so it's good to put your mascara on about halfway through your makeup routine so your lashes are prepped and ready to hold up those lashes. And I am using the Younique Skin Perfecting Concealer in the shade Organza to cover up some blemishes I've been having the last few days. And I am going to just blend this out with my finger. It's actually the first time, well, this week has been the first time that I've used the concealer with my fingers, and I've found that it's actually it's a very powdery feel, like a cream to powder almost, like the foundation that we have. It's a very good feeling. It's very light, and I think I actually like applying it better with my fingertips over the brush. And I am going to be using a different foundation today. I have been shopping through my other makeup that I have, and this is the Too Faced Born This Way foundation in the shade Medium Brown. It was getting a lot of good reviews, and I just wanted to try it out. It is a good foundation. It leaves your skin flawless, and it is a bit heavy. My skin's oily, and I do notice a heaviness throughout the day, but it still leaves a really good coverage. And I am using a Sigma F80 brush with Max Fix Plus. That was the spray that I put on it. And the directions on the bottle of foundation say to start in the center of your face and blend the foundation out, whichever way you prefer. I don't believe you have to do that. It also says that you can layer an extra layer of foundation if you feel that you need it. I don't feel that you need it. One is definitely enough. And I do go over my lips with the foundation brush just to help prime out my lips for my lip liners and lip glosses and lipsticks later. And I am trying out a new concealer. It's by Makeup Forever High Definition. It's in the shade R22. It is quite a bit lighter than my foundation that I use right now. I prefer a lighter look under my eyes. I always create a highlight, and it just goes, even if you don't contour, it just gives a nice highlight and pulls your cheekbones up and gives you a nice line underneath your eyes. And I am going to be doing winter contour in this. This one was darker and more defined. And I am using the Mini Beauty Blender by Younique to blend out the concealer. I did mist it with water. I don't have one particular way that I prefer to apply my concealer over the other. It's just whatever I happen to be feeling at the time, and I'm feeling this beauty blender right now. I am using the Anastasia Beverly Hills Contour Powder Kit, and I am using a Sigma F35 brush to blend out this setting powder for my concealer. It is in the shade Banana. And this is one of my favorite brushes. I actually want to purchase another one to use for my contouring. And now I'm going to be using the same contour kit and using the shade Havana with a Makeup Geek angled contour brush. And I am going in above where I would normally put my contour. I'm making this line a little bit higher than I normally would on my cheeks, just to give my cheeks a more lifted appearance. And I am buffing the same shade in Havana around my hairline and down each side of my nose. And now I'm going to use the same contour kit, and I did not show you the shade that I'm using, but it is the lightest shade in the palette, and it is Vanilla. And the brush that I'm using here is one that I purchased from Amazon. It comes in a set of like 11 brushes, and I also put this lighter shade on my forehead and down the center of my nose. And now I'm using a Makeup Geek angled stippling brush, and I'm just turning this upside down to where the angle of this brush goes with the line that I drew, and buffing this contour out. You don't want to buff it too much or you'll buff it completely away. And now I'm going back in with the shade Vanilla just to define that contour line. And you could actually not use any blush at this point. You could add a highlight, and I did show you the blush there, but I am going to go in with a highlight first by Becca. I am going to be using the shade in Champagne Pop that Jaclyn Hill developed. I'm going to be using a Real Techniques contour brush to do this. And I'm going to put this right above the shade Havana, up to my hairline, and then over the Vanilla on my forehead, nose, and above my Cupid's bow, and right below my lower lip. And I am using a MAC blush in the shade Spring Sheen, and I am using a Makeup Geek rounded blush brush right on top of the contour and the highlight that I just did. And I'm using a Ecos Tools fluffy stippling brush to lighten that up, and so that I won't have any harsh lines. And going back with the contour brush that I used to buff that out, and with the product left on it, just going back over it to define it a little bit more, and the same for the highlighter brush. And this is the eyeliner by Younique in the shade Perfect, and I'm lining my lower lash line. I never leave that line with just the pencil. I always go back in. I am using the shade from Addiction Palette 1 in the shade Zealous with a Makeup Geek pencil brush. I'm just following that pencil line that I drew. I'm going back in with the shade Chipper now and using the same Makeup Geek pencil brush. And the Chipper is a little bit lighter, so it lightens up that Zealous and makes it not so harsh. You want soft lines and soft looks. I'm using a Splurge Cream Shadow in the shade Elegant. This was our first one released. And I am using a Real Techniques accent brush. It's a very tiny brush, and I am dragging that in from the inner corner of my eye to just underneath the browns that I just used. And now I am using the Laura Mercier translucent setting powder, and I am using a Makeup Geek face buffer brush. This is really good if you have oily skin, which I do any time of the year, and right now my skin is super dry. My skin is trying to overcompensate that by producing a lot more oil that I would normally have even in the summer. So this powder helps set that and keeps it under control throughout the day. And it's translucent, and you want to do this very light. It doesn't change the appearance of your makeup. You can still see my contour and all the shades and highlight that I used, and it's a really good powder. Now I am going back in with from the Addiction Palette 1 and using the shade, what shade did I use? Swanky. Pretty Gold. I'm putting this on with a Sigma E30 brush right underneath the highest part of your arch knot from end to end, and just dragging that down in kind of a tornado motion, and so that it will blend into your other shadows and just look pretty and natural. And here I'm using the Younique lip liner in the shade Pouty, and just lining my lips. I'm not going to do anything extra, not doing an ombre lip or anything like that. I am now using a NARS matte lip pencil in the shade Bettina, and I'm going to top this off with a Lancome gloss in the shade Hallucination. And now I am going to be using some velour lashes. I've been using them for about a week and a half now, so the process is getting quicker, but still not as quick as I'd like. Still kind of a clumsy mess with it. If you do ever try to apply false lashes, you want to have a mirror down below you. You don't want to look straight into a mirror and try and put them on. You want to put them on at an angle. You can see the natural line of your lashes better and where better they fit on. And you always want to make sure that your the inner part of the lash has taken to your eyelid before the rest. It's kind of hard to make it lay down whenever you already have the outer edge of it laying flat. And I do blow on it just a tad, just to help set up the gel before I put it, or the glue before I put it on. And I do use some tweezers to help sit them on my lashes. And I just use it to set them in place and hold it down until it dries. And this glue does dry clear, so I didn't make a terrible mess like it looks. That's a good thing about it. Actually, that's a great thing about it. I think they also make this glue in a darker shade as well, but I'd prefer just to use the clear that way. If it should slip up, the dark shade wouldn't get in your eyeshadow and mess it up. And then you can go in with a Q-tip and also do a little cleanup too before it dries. And these lashes you can use about 25 times. So if you take care of them, they will last you a very long time. I'm still a work in progress, so I hope you like this video. And if you want to see more, just hit the subscribe button at the bottom.